Hello, everyone, and welcome to ReelQuick. Episode 86 is just me and Seth this week. George is in Greece, hopefully having a good time on vacation, and Cam is MIA this week. So we are going to be reviewing Rango, just us two. This was recommended by Ferdinand04, so shout out to him. And if you want to check out any of our Patreon tiers, link is in the description as always. Tons of great stuff for every different level of tier on there. And then ReelTokPodcast.com, some great merch. I don't know if this is coming out in like a week and a half from when I'm filming this, so we might have more merch out already because I'm working on stuff in the background. So go check it out. We have some stuff for some upcoming releases coming out, either already out or will be coming out soon. And then make sure you just hit that subscribe button on YouTube or follow us on Spotify and rate us 5 stars if you're listening, or Apple Podcasts as well. But yeah, let's just jump into it. So the Rango is from 2011, directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Johnny Depp, Isla Fisher, Bill Nighy, and Timothy Oliphant, some other voice actors. The synopsis here is: when Rango, a lost family pet, accidentally winds up in the gritty, gunslinging town of Dirt, the less than courageous lizard suddenly finds he stands out. Welcomed as the last hope the town has been waiting for, new Sheriff Rango is forced to play the new role to the hilt. So yeah, I guess we'll start off with Seth. So just kind of your overall thoughts and your rating before we kind of unpack it a little more.
Yeah, so this is obviously my first watch. I hadn't seen it before. I know this is like one that a lot of people grew up with. When did it come out, Tyler? It was like 2010, 2011, that kind of period, I think.
Yep, 2011.
2011, yeah. I think it's a really interesting film. I really, really liked it, to be honest. I think that Rango it's an interesting one because it's kind of like a surreal animation. It wasn't what I was expecting. It's more dramatic, maybe more adult than a lot of animations around the time, especially because I heard a lot of people grew up with it and that sort of thing. It's a bit different than what I expected, but I think it's really, really interesting. I think the animation is unique, especially around that time period. I can guess that it was massively groundbreaking. For the 2010s, I think it still holds up today as being really, really great. I think it's a story of heroism, which we've seen many times. You know, it's nothing revolutionary with its storytelling, I wouldn't say, but it also is a beautiful homage to like Western films, Sergio Leone's era, the era of like 50s, 60s Westerns, which is to be appreciated. And I think that what I kind of love most about a film like Rango is just how weird it is. Like the whole premise and the whole meaning is obviously, you know, making your own way in life and doing what you have to. But I think that what I love about it most is it reminds me of like I've referenced this before, but like a Dungeons and Dragons or a Guardians of the Galaxy, not in its any way in terms of the narrative or anything like that, but just in terms of every corner you go, you find another weirdo, and the designs are so abnormal and strange, and I think that really works in the favor of providing entertainment and providing this kind of surrealistic animation of somewhat like unique that I hadn't seen before. And I love kind of going on a journey and just waiting for the next weird character to pop up, like a Guardians, like a Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves from this year. And I think it's very, very similar. And I also think it's, you know, it's a smart script. It's funny. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's full of likable characters. It's got heart, especially the ending, which obviously I'm sure we'll go into. And it doesn't really, you know, fall into the trap of being too cliche with the homage to Westerns, but it equally pays homage in a beautiful way. I really like the voice acting. I think Johnny Depp is really, really good. I think they all are, to be honest. I really like Bill Nighy's character as well. I think he's great. And I think Johnny Depp has this unique ability to kind of change his voice and just, you know, adapt to his character. I think it really works in this. And I think the final point I'm going to make, and the most positive thing about this for me is I actually found it really funny. And I would say as well, so animated films, a lot of the time, I for some reason struggle to engage with in a comedic sense. Not all the time, you know, there are examples, Monsters Inc., Ratatouille, some Studio Ghibli films, whatever. But with this, it really, there were several sequences which really got me laughing out loud, which is very surprising. But yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts. I give it a 4 out of 5, which is higher than I expected, to be honest, because I'm not a huge animation guy. You know, I've watched quite a lot, but I'm not like one of those that goes out their way to watch them a lot of times. Nothing against the art form in particular. It's just not my preferred way of showcasing the medium. But it was just really, really fun, really entertaining, strong voice cast, energetic, weird, surreal, and nothing revolutionary again with its storytelling. But I think it does all the right things it needs to hit the, you know, emotional narrative beats anyway. But yeah, 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I was lower on it than you. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, 5 out of 10 for my official score. So I went into this honestly, like I think it ended up being better than I expected, simply because my fiance, like, you know how we always talk about like, oh, what's the first movie I remember watching that you like saw and you're like, oh, movies aren't all good, like that one stinked. She's always been telling me this for like the years I've known
I don't
her.
know
She's like, yeah, she's like, I don't either, which always makes me mad, honestly, that I can't remember mine. But because anytime I try to throw something out, it's just honestly at that point, it's just me trying to make something up. Like I don't really
just
remember.
trying to,
yeah. But Rango, for her, she said that like ever since I met her, she's like, I hate this movie. Like it was the first movie I remember as a kid just watching and being like, this was not good. So going into it, I was like, I mean, it's Gore Verbinski, who's obviously done a lot of great films before. He did like the Ring remake. He did the Pirates movies. So I was like, it's him. Plus, this is pretty highly rated. So like, how bad can it really be? So I actually ended up thinking it was like way better than like what she was making it sound like. She made it sound like it was awful. But I just still didn't fall absolutely in love with it like most people on average seem to. It was a mixed bag for me because one word you used in your Letterboxd review was ugly, which I think is like perfect to describe the animation style. Was just like wonky, like intentionally that way. But the people,
exactly,
right?
Deliberately ugly.
Yeah, the animation was just so wonky and ugly and bizarre. But also like, and a lot of things like with animation as a medium, a lot of people think, oh, it's animated. There's no like actual physical cameras, so there's no cinematography. But the cinematography is very much a thing in animated films. Cinematographers still are hired for animated films because basically instead of a real lens, it might be the virtual lens of how it's moving through the world. And I think while the animation is super ugly in this, I think the cinematography is awesome. Like especially towards the end, there's a scene where he's like riding and the moon's in the background. It's massive. There's so many shots in this movie that I think are just really well done. So I think from a animation standpoint, it's really truly beautiful, especially the cinematography of it. The voice acting for me, I didn't love as much as you. So Johnny Depp, I saw he was in it when I turned it on, and I knew he was going to be the main character, the titular role. But for some reason, like it sounded like Owen Wilson to me, and it just that threw me off the entire time, and it never was able to rectify itself.
I know what you mean.
Like it did not sound like Johnny Depp at all, which I honestly like. Credit to Johnny Depp. I didn't really know or thought he would have had that range of voice acting. I thought it was going to be Jack Sparrow as Rango is what I was going to get, which, and it's not really a knock to the voice acting. It's just something for me is just a weird thing that just threw me off. I was like 10 minutes into the movie, I had to Google. I was like, who is who in the cast? Like, I know Johnny Depp's in it, but like, is Owen Wilson in this? Cause I just kept thinking it was Owen Wilson for some reason. But the story to me just never really pulled me in. I just thought it was pretty average. The visuals really were stunning to me, but I don't know, just something. The story was just never able to pull me in, to sink me into it. I was never really engaged or excited throughout this movie. I don't know if it's just me being in the summer in a desert town where we're dealing with drought. Maybe it was just because of that, where I'm like, God, do I have to hear more about droughts in the middle of the desert and water being a hot commodity? But it wasn't really that. It was just the fact that to me, I just didn't really find this that entertaining. So that's really ultimately why it's a 2.5 star. And for me, like, honestly, like if I would have watched this 2 years ago when my rating scale was way different, I probably would have given it like a 4 star or so, because I used to try to be objective with my ratings. And I think objectively, quotes, because that's not a real thing, is that I think this is from a technical craft is a phenomenal film. But as I've gotten further into reviewing films, I just tend to go based on a lot more about how much I actually just enjoy watching the movie. And that's kind of why there's a 2.5 star. Feel like I have to justify that simply because like, this is one of those, like, you post on Letterboxd with a 2.5 star and a lot of people are very upset.
It's quite a cult. Like, it's like a cause, isn't it? Because if you think, especially like us, obviously I wasn't that young right when this came out. I was probably, how old was I? Like 13, and how old about the same. So I think, but a lot of our younger followers who are like a few years younger, it's one of those that are like a cause. People like grew up with it. Like if you talk about on like a Shrek or an Incredibles, it's kind of a similar ilk where it's like people kind of grow up with it, so they're going to take it the wrong way. But I think with me, what I like about this most is this is kind of like an animated film that I would argue is made for me in the way that I just love surrealist shit. I love weird stuff. I actively seek out surreal films, and this is kind of, it runs in a similar narrative. And like you said, I think it is ugly, but not in a derogatory term. I think deliberately speaking, it's gritty, it's nasty, especially the sequence at the start when Rango is obviously pretending to be this, this gunslinger who's taken on all his enemies, whatever. And I think the whole sequence, it reminded me of, when he goes into the bar and there's all these weird faces. Do you know the scene in Shrek 2 where they go in the bar and it's like just this bunch of weirdos everywhere? It reminds me of that, and I love that because I like to see these strange faces and these interactions with these people. And I think it really just brings the ounce of charm that needs to to prevail as a film. And whilst I agree with you that, I don't think the actual script, even though I think it was well executed, I don't think it was anything we haven't seen before. It was a story of heroism, a story on trying to be something you're not and don't do it, and whatever. We've seen that before, of course we have, but I think this just excels in adapting to its weirdness. And I also thought the action, we haven't touched on it, but I thought the action sequences are really cool as well. I really like them. But I think my standout in terms of voice acting, admittedly I do really like him in general, but Bill Nighy for me, as Rattlesnake Joe, was it his name? No, Rattlesnake Jake.
There you go.
Rattlesnake Jake. Yeah, he was so good, and I think that for me the voice acting was just really, really well cast. Like at the start, it kind of was funny. I was like, I thought this might be like a Paris, Texas kind of film. Like someone like lost in the desert, trying to find a way. And I actually looked at the cast list, and obviously Harry Dean Stanton plays I can't remember one of the characters in it. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
No, that's
but then he kind of went into somewhere I didn't kind of realize it would be. And I think for me, it took a turn that I really wanted it to and kind of enjoyed, because I just love weird shit, man. That's why I love Dungeons and Dragons so much, and that's why I think that this film works. I also don't know. It did surprise me, because I think this is like, I didn't know, first of all, that it's different than the usual animation. Do you know what I mean? It's different than like a Pixar or a DreamWorks, for example. In A, the way it's animated, and B, the kind of adult themes that are portrayed at times. I always forget he did the Pirates of the Caribbean film as well. Obviously, I love the first specific Pirates of the Caribbean film, but yeah, I really, really had a good time with this, because of the way it kind of is so self-aware of its weirdness and tries to do as much as possible. I think, like you said, the cinematography and the animation, it's really, really great. I kind of wish a lot more films would look like that. I don't know what the budget was. Do you have any idea what the budget was for this? Because I think it made a decent amount of money. I think it also surprises me that they pushed this much money into a project like this, because I'm assuming it was quite high.
Yeah, 135 million, which in 2011 for an animated film, that's a whopping budget.
Doesn't it surprise you they pushed that into a film like this in 2011?
Yeah, like I think my guess would maybe be that just Gore Verbinski, after the Pirates movies, was kind of like the blank check kind of director at the time, where it's kind of like, here's money, go make something. But yeah, that's crazy that they have that much money to this, and it shows. Like the animation is awesome, and of course making the Pirates movies with, what's his name, Tentacle Face. Like obviously, like Gore Verbinski enjoys kind of bizarre, wacky creatures, and it really comes across here, even in the animated genre. So one thing that's like kind of neat about how they did the voice acting for this, which kind of might be a reason why you think like the voice acting was really good and the chemistry is really great, is that they didn't record in voiceovers and booths. Instead, they had Johnny Depp and everyone on set basically kind of acting out what the characters were doing, reading the lines. So it wasn't in a booth. This is done. It's not the only time it's been done. It was done in Shark Tale in 2004. And then another thing it was done for was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this year. It's been done for other movies, but it's mostly rare, because most voiceovers, there's always A-list celebrities that are doing the voiceovers. So in order to kind of get all them together, you kind of just have to say, like, here's your lines, record them, and do it all separately. But in this, they literally gave them all Wild West costumes, put them in like saloon booths and stuff, and like they were all basically acting out what the animated characters were, which I think really helps really bring to life the voice acting in movies, when animated movies are able to do that.
You can kind of like see that in a way when I look back at it now. The conversations that obviously Rango and Beans have, who's played by Isla Fisher, voiced by Isla Fisher. You can kind of get the gist of the R there together in a way. The chemistry is really, really well done, and I think it does surprise. It does well. I wish more animated films would do that. Obviously, I can see why, like you said. Animated films oftentimes, when it comes to schedules with celebrities who might be recording other projects, whatever, and it's just like they can do it in a booth right there and then record their lines, whatever. So it's much easier to do it that way, and other than fly them out to a direct location. But I do wish, because you can tell in a lot of ways. I think that's probably one of the better things about the film for me, is the voice acting and how they feel like they're there. It's funny how, like, from the clips I've seen, that they feel, in an animated film, they feel more together than like Ana de Armas and Chris Evans did in Ghosted from the clip. Do you know what I mean? Which is fucking crazy, because that's a live action film. But I think that for me, that one of the strongest parts was the voice acting, because it feels so that they're just having a conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And then, this movie did win the best animated feature at the Oscars that year, which
did it?
Yeah, which is kind of surprising, because it's not. it's a film that a lot of people know, but I wouldn't say it's it's not Pixar level in terms of name recognition, but things we talked about with how awesome it looked and how much they devoted to the craft of this movie, it kind of makes sense that it would be a more Oscar buzzy movie. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like the final battle for me. Like I think this is just an issue with animation in general for me, which is like something I hate that I have to say, but like, and Cam would be disappointed, but I don't know, man. Like lately, the animation just hasn't been hitting for me. Like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, obviously everyone kind of gave 5 stars. And I was like, that's like a 4-star for me. Rewatched Monsters Inc. and WALL-E, and they're 4 stars when I used to probably think of them as 5-star. I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last night, and that's like a beloved movie from this year. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just not getting it. And it's the same with the Rango. And I don't know. I don't know if they just all feel formulaic to me, where it's just kind of it always just boils up to an epic end boss battle. I don't know. Like it's disappointing because I've always been, I'm not as much of a pundit for animation as Cam is, but still I think animation deserves to be respected and it's a great medium for film. But lately, I don't know, just animated films, even the ones that are highly critically acclaimed, just haven't been hitting for me on the same level. So I don't know if I need like a break from watching animated movies or what, but yeah, Rango just kind of fell victim to that again, where I just kind of watched it and I was like, kind of bored by this, and the final battle with Jake the Rattlesnake happens. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I get it. And then it kind of all resolves. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like it's just like I just feel like they're all kind of formulaic, which like again, like people say animation movies aren't just for kids, but they're mostly catered towards kids. So obviously I can't fault them too much. Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like that moved way too fast. Like it was just kind of this. But when you're making a movie for kids, you kind of have to accept certain things in animated movies are going to be taken at liberty in order to make it more appealing towards younger generations. And I don't know, maybe I'm just starting to watch more films that I'm starting to have less of a tolerance for that, which is disappointing. I think I just need to take a break from animated films because I think this is just like another one that I just didn't love as much as everyone else did.
I go through the same periods with animation. I actually had a while ago, I just didn't watch animation for so long. It is a weird one because I generally speaking don't like them as much as most people. Like I only have like 3 on my top 100 or 4, should I say? And I just and all of those are ones that I grew up with. So I rarely find new watches where I can be like, okay, this is great. I can't think of animated films that I've given a first watch in the past 5 years, given a 4.5 or higher, because it just doesn't happen as frequently because you tend to rely animated films, like you said, are oftentimes made. The primary audience is, of course, kids. Like I think people can say animation's for everyone, animation for adults, which it is. Animation can enjoy adults, but of course, the primary target for Pixar, DreamWorks, Ghibli, whatever it is always going to be kids. Other than your Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue and shit, because if you show that to a kid, not a good way to go. But like most of the time, and I think that, well, child animation, adult animation, like Flea, for example, that's also different. It's a Beautiful Life, that's adults, but most of the stuff catered for children when it comes to big corporations, and I think they have to follow a formula which kids can also understand. Which is why you see so many instances of heroism, of finding your meaning, of being yourself, and it's the same themes, it's the same commentary, which has to be implemented. But I do think that can wear on you, like you said, because you're watching a lot of films that do follow not a similar narrative, but a similar pattern of narrative. They hit the same beats, they follow the same structure, and I think that can become kind of boring. So I definitely got what you mean. I actually was surprised I gave Rango 4 because this is, when I watch like a new Pixar, that I haven't seen before, a new DreamWorks, whatever, it's rare that I rate them higher than like a 3.5. Because I just don't tend to enjoy them as much, which is why I was surprised by this. So it definitely makes sense. I think sometimes you might just have to take a break from animation. Do you know what I mean? And kind of go back to it when you want to. But at the end of the day, people like things, Cam, for example, can watch animation every day if he wants to, whereas me and you probably get a bit tiresome after a while. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been wanting, because like we mentioned our Pixar ranking the other week, I only have like 2 left I haven't seen, but I have like probably 10 left I need to rate. And I wanted to finish that off because it's just kind of like a nice little thing to check off. But I think I'm going to just pause on that, honestly, because I just think I need a break for myself from animated movies. But yeah, it's funny, like kids in animation, because like Riley and I were talking about this when we were at a movie theater. Like it's just so funny that kids, like when you're at a movie theater, kids will just like leave and go to the bathroom. And like I feel like they don't have that same feeling of like, oh, I'm going to miss something, because they just have such an innocent mindset of they're like, oh, what? Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will still be on the screen when I come back, or Super Mario Bros. Isn't going anywhere. Like it's just like, kids are just so innocent. It's so funny to see how they don't, whether it's the climax or the most important part of the movie, the kids with animation, it's like, oh, whatever, I'll watch it again.
It's bright colors and seeing funny characters. You know what I mean? This and bright animation and stuff, which is kind of the idea you get with a lot of these films, which is why they cost so much money, because they want to make them as appealing to not only an adult audience but a child as possible, bringing bright visual colors like a Mario, for example, and showing them off. But yeah, like I think I definitely get where you're coming from, but I do think that Rango probably. Wait, what company was it that made this?
So I saw that it was the only non-Disney Pixar movie to win before Spider-Verse for Best Animated Feature. So I don't know. It's definitely not DreamWorks.
Nickelodeon movies.
Oh wow, they usually make stinkers, so good for them.
Well, they made. Yeah, they do actually. Oh, they made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well, actually. So same.
Oh,
that kind of makes sense. And
Yeah.
SpongeBob. Oh, okay.
Those
That's
are good
interesting.
movies. But yeah, I think like there was one movie last year that was Blazing Saddles, but the animated version of it. I can't remember what it was, but it was just not great.
Yeah.
But that was
something
Nickelodeon.
like that.
Yeah. Anything else you got to say about Rango?
No, so yeah, 4 out of 5 for me. Really, really enjoyed it. It's been one that I don't know why I haven't watched. You know what I mean? It's like such a cult classic in animation. It feels like I should have watched it by now. But I had a great time with it. I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah, I think I'm sure it's just coincidence that they came out pretty much back to back with Rango and Django Unchained. But the fact that two westerns came out within like one calendar year of each other with like basically the similar name titular characters is just kind of weird. I don't know if like
Django's 2012. I was 2014.
No, 2012. So it's just kind of, I don't know the Ango suffix, if that's something that's popular in westerns or if it's just random that Rango and Django came out. But yeah, that's all we got to say.
Django was there was original Django, wasn't there, in like the 50s?
Oh, there was. Okay, yeah. I'm not up to date on my Django lore.
Westerns.
Yeah, westerns in general. Yeah, you're right. But Seth gives it a 4-star. I gave it a 2.5 star, 5 out of 10. Just perfectly right down the middle. I probably will never watch it again purely because like my fiance hates this movie, so I don't see any reason why I would ever have this on TV ever again. But yeah, I don't know. I had a fine time with it. I watched it and I was like, that was fine. Didn't seem to love it as much as Seth, but there was definitely a lot I was able to appreciate with this. But yeah, shout out to Ferdinando4 for the suggestion. Make sure you check out our Patreon in the description down below, ReelTokPodcast.com for merch, and hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars. With that, we will see you in the next one.